Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. And we are Group 10, and we are here to present our topic called feed processing.
For the first key point is the primary reason for processing feeds. Feed processing typically entails modifying the physical and in some cases the chemical properties of feed commodities in order to improve the animal utilization and diet mixing and stability. The feeds most likely to be processed are the major components of any diet, roughage, and grain. However, in some cases, the minor components of the diet additives are processed into pellets to aid mixing and keep the diet stable. For the first reason is to make the feed more palatable. Palatability refers to the perception of food taste, smell, and texture. It is an important food characteristic because animals must be willing to eat adequate amount of food to meet their calorie and nutrient needs. And for the second one is to detoxify or remove undesirable ingredients. Healthy and safe feed is essential for healthy and safe food. So it is important to have an efficient feed hygiene system in place to minimize the risk of pathogenic bacterial contamination of feed or to ensure that the animal and the animal byproducts are not contaminated with foodborne pathogens. For the third reason is to make the storage easy and safe. By having processed feeds, it is more easier to manage and safer to handle other than raw materials because processed feeds are produced by precisely choosing and blending ingredients to provide highly nutritional diets that both maintain the health of the animals. And for the fourth reason is to increase the nutrient content and the nutrient availability. Because in feed processing, nutrients are elements in feed that are used by the animal for growth and production. These nutrients are normally divided into 5 categories, and these are water, protein, carbohydrates, minerals, and vitamins. For the fifth reason is to change the particle size or the density of the feed. Because the advantage of the crumble pellet diets may result from an increase in appetite, diet density, and a decrease in feed wastage. Lastly, to make animal production more economical. Because feed processing is a profitable business considering the growth of animal husbandry and the human population that demands more resources so that it can help to boost our economy. For the second key point is the particle size reduction procedures. In the field of processing, grinding is a standard procedure for reducing particle size to make the ingredients suitable for animal feeding and digestion. The principle of grinding methods is to apply force to the ingredients in order to break the bonds between the various physical structures in feed materials. The amount of particle size reduction and the amount of energy input for the diet ingredients are important factors in feed manufacturing practices. Reducing the particle size of ingredients can have a significant impact on feed processing and in animal health. For the first procedure is the dry milling. It is a less versatile, less capital-intensive process that focuses primarily on the production of grain ethanol. In this process, the corn kernels are hammer milled into a medium to fine grind mill for production to the ethanol production process. And for the second procedure is the wet milling. It is a process of breaking solid particles into their component parts. And these component parts are corn oil, protein, cornstarch, and fiber. It uses water and a series of steps to separate the parts to be used for various products. Lastly, for the third procedure is the high-pressure homogenization. It is the mechanical process that works to reduce the particle size, and it is a method of preserving and sterilizing food in which a product is processed under very high pressure, leading to the inactivation of certain microorganisms and enzymes in the food.
Feed mills. Feed mills in general are responsible for the manufacture of animal feeds, including those used by livestock, poultry, and companion animals. For animal-based agriculture, manufactured feeds offer properly prepared feeds to livestock and poultry animals to fulfill all nutritional requirements for maximum development and performance. These produced feeds are carefully designed to ensure that the animal obtain the proper nutrients at each stage of its life. Let us now discuss the two most commonly used mills in animal feed industry. The first one is the hammer mills. Hammer mills are primarily impact grinders, which use swinging or fixed steel bars to force materials against a circular screen or solid serrated piece known as a striking plate. The material is kept in the grinding chamber until it's reduced to the size of the screen holes. The number of hammers on a rotating shaft, their size, arrangement, sharpness, rotational speed, wear patterns, and clearance at the tip relative to the screen or striking plate are all critical factors in grinding capacity and product appearance. The heat given to the materials as a result of the grinding action is proportional to the duration, and it is kept within the chamber and the airflow parameters. Impact grinding works best with dry, low-fat ingredients, but many other materials may be reduced in size with correct screen selection and controlled intake. A horizontal drive shaft suspends vertical hammers in most hammer mills. However, for some ingredients such as dry animal waste, a vertical hammer mill is more efficient. The drive shaft is vertical in this mill, while screens and hammers are horizontal. Material effectively reduced to the diameter of the screen holes or smaller is transported outside the mill by gravity and subsequently by air or conveyor to the storage in makeup bins. Oversized particles that are difficult to break fall through the mill and can be recycled or discarded. As a result, foreign elements such as metals and stones are expelled before they cause damage to the screen. The next one is the roller mills. Roller mills use a combination of cutting, attrition, and crushing. These are smooth, corrugated rollers that rotate at the same speed and are spaced apart by a predetermined distance with the material passing between the two. To enhance their whipping action, operate the rolls at various speed with distinct corrugation on each roll. For example, the top roll may have off-radial spiral corrugation, and the bottom roll has lateral corrugation. This last kind is known as Lepage cut. Is utilized in the production of granules from hard pellets because it provides a breaking surface with less impact to create dust. Roll grinding is cost-effective, but is limited to the materials that are relatively dry and low in fat.
What is feed mixing? Feed mixing can include any and all solids and liquids combination, which means physical properties vary from one ingredient to the next. Particle size, shape, density, electrostatic charge, coefficient of friction is represented by the angle of repose, elasticity or resilience, and of course, color, odor, and taste are all different for solids. There are also differences in viscosity and density among liquids. Next, the main objective of feed mixing is to begin with a specific combination of ingredients known as formula, totaling a specific weight. This is processed in such a way that each small unit of the whole, including a mouthful or a day's feeding, has the same proportion as the original formula. Three mechanisms are involved in the mixing process. First, the transfer of groups of adjacent particles from one location in the mass to another. Second, diffusion. It is the distribution of particles over a freshly developed surface. Third, shear. It is slipping of particles between others in the mass. Feed mixers have become very essential in ensuring extra supplements are evenly distributed and integrated in animal feeds to maintain the animal dietary requirements. They are categorized into vertical mixers and horizontal mixers. What is vertical mixers? Vertical mixers are typically made up of a cylinder, cone, or hopper-shaped container with a single or double screw running vertically through the center. Vertical feed mixers are typically used on dairy and beef farms. Vertical mixers provide a very thorough mix for any beef or dairy ration. What is horizontal mixers? Horizontal mixers produce a very homogeneous mixture of various feed ingredients. The mixing in this machine is done by four curved blades clamped to the main shaft, which rotate and provide a continuous turbulent movement to the ingredients. Horizontal mixers are used to mixing feed and cooperate with other feed processing equipment in medium and small size farm.
Dry processing method. In this method, water content is reduced to a desired level. Dry processing method includes baling, chopping, grinding, pelleting, dehydration, and cubing. Baling. The forage is cut and dried in the field condition. Dried forage is then baled and bundled with baler. By this method, we make storage and handling for forage easy and convenient. Chopping, also known as scaffing, the forage are chopped into small pieces as fine or coarse particles. Chopping avoids the selective feeding, thus wastage of plant material is reduced. The machine used for the intended purpose is called calf cutter. Chopping facilities easily handling due to increased bulk density also improves digestion due to exposure of relatively large surface area of roughage for microbial digesting. Grinding. It's a process of particle size reduction and has two parts. Coarse grinding, roughage improves the feed consumption and growth rate. Fine grinding, reduce the digestibility of CF due to faster rate of feed particles in gastrointestinal tract. Pelleting, the ground roughage are pelleted and feed to animals to improve the consumption of poor quality roughage. A complete feed consists pelleting poor quality roughage with 30% concentrate. The size of pellet is 12 by 64 inches to 48 by 64 inches and has a density of 40 pounds per cubic feet. Dehydration. It is a process of reduction of moisture content in a dehydrator using a temperature of 600 to 15,000 Fahrenheit for a short time period of 3 to 5 minutes. Dehydrated forage retains a lot of dry matter and crude protein. No loss of leaves, but carotene content is reduced. Cubing. It increased the density of the roughage up to 30 pounds per cubic feet. Good quality hay is sprayed with water to increase the moisture content up to 14%. Broken down rather than to ground the roughage so that there is a minimum of fine particles in cube. Wet processing method is the process of mixing or spraying water on roughage to soften the stem and ensure consistent mixing of concentrates with roughage, improving intake and digestibility. When green roughage are calf, there is no need of soaking and being fed as such or mixed with dry roughage or concentrate mixture.
So now let's talk about microingredient premixing. By standard definition, premix is the mixture of vitamins, diluents, trace minerals, and other types of feed supplements. It is rich in nutrients that an animal needs. That is why micronutrients are essential to optimize the growth and the reproduction of livestock. Premixing has progressed from the simple hand mixing of several ingredients to mechanical mixing to continuous mixing and now to computer-controlled mixing. So the objective of microingredient premixing is to distribute the nutrients of the feed through premixes. According to the DSM Nutritional Products, approximately 80% of the pet food industry uses premixes in the production of their complete and balanced pet food products. A premix is a blend of micronutrients that are individually added to pet food in micro amounts. Combining these ingredients in a premix simplifies the weighing process and improves accuracy in mixing and distribution of these micronutrients throughout the food. Now let's discuss premix manufacturing process. It has 7 main processes. So the first step is gathering of raw materials. In gathering of raw materials, it has 5 things to consider. The first one is the selection and specification. This includes the form of ingredients selected, which must also be available, of economic interest, and also impart acceptable physical attributes to the premix. And it is recommended to procure more stable derivatives like coated forms that are not destroyed even when mixed with trace minerals. The next thing to consider under gathering of raw materials is on purchasing. It says here that it must be obtained from approved vendors and should conform to the specification laid down by the nutritionist. Other sellers will say that it has good qualities but no proper specifications from professionals, so extra careful on that. Another thing to consider is it should be purchased periodically or even more seldom for the purpose of managing it in the storage room to avoid wastage of the materials. Third thing to consider is the receipt and the storage of raw materials. It says here that the receiver should have enough information from the quality assurance program to be able to recognize the quality of product. So knowledge is everything. You need to know all the details and pieces of information about the raw materials to assure the quality of the product. The raw material should be logged in after segregation of drugs and other nutrients. And for the storage, its area must have sufficient protection from rodents and insects. It should be well ventilated, sanitized, and away from direct sunlight. Next is sampling and analysis. So obviously, it should be done by trained personnel, and another thing to remember here is when large consignments of raw materials are received, it is advisable to mix the raw material in mixer and then analyze each mixed batch to make an accurate assessment. So the last thing to consider for the gathering of raw materials is the processing. Processing seeks to modify the physical properties of raw materials to meet the specifications of premix. Processing basically includes sieving, which is a physical mechanism of particle removal, and milling, which is the process of using rotary cutters to remove material. Now, after gathering raw materials, next stage of the process is the formulation. This is an important and critical step in manufacturing a premix. Qualified personnel possessing knowledge and expertise regarding microingredients and powder technology should formulate a premix. Must also consider physical and chemical characteristics. Physical characteristics like particle size, particle shape, particle density, flowability, and compressibility. And chemical characteristics like purity, potency, pH, reactivity, and stability. Weighing is an important point of manufacturing of a premix. No matter how good the formula is, it is difficult to achieve the desired nutrient levels in the premix without precise weighing. So precision and accuracy in weighing is important to attain the desired nutrients in microingredients. Also, assurance in weighing can be achieved by calibrating balances against standard weights. So next process is mixing. It is the focal point of the premix manufacturing process. It includes macro mixing or blending of all components of the premix along with carriers in a batch mixer, and micro mixing or mixing microingredients which weigh less than 1% of mixer capacity. Other things to consider are type of mixer, which must be able to provide homogeneous mixtures of physical adverse particles incorporated at various levels in the mix, together with mixing time and mixing order. Next is packaging. There are just few things to remember when it comes to packaging. This includes to maintain the stability of micronutrients and to protect the integrity of the premix. Provides barrier against light, moisture, oxygen, and no chemical interaction with the premix. provides good printing surface sturdy enough to withstand the transport pressure. Next process is the labeling. I also mentioned the labeling part on the things to consider in gathering raw materials. This time, we are the ones who will do the labeling. So, the importance of putting label is it gives an identity to the premix and helps in differentiating from other premixes. The premixes for different segments like layer, broiler, breeder, and dairy should bear labels of different color. It is also a crucial part of this process, so careful attention must be paid while preparing the label since the customer follows the instruction given on the label. Last process of premixing is the storage. Remember to keep the area clean, well lit, and ventilated with fresh air. Make separate provision for storing sale return or expired premix. Keep floors, walls, and walkways clean, dry, and free from any obstructions. Keep the area free from pests and rodents, and no bag should be stored without any label. Well, that's it for our presentation. Thank you for listening.